death. Until I had to, I didn't. Not really. We feel general and profound anxiety about it. But figuring out the nuts and bolts of how to make the best of one's last days, and then how to ensure that one follows the planned course of action for the benefit of oneself and one's loved ones, are not typical habits of the dying, and most certainly not of the healthy and hearty. Some people don't think about death because it comes suddenly and prematurely. Quite a few who die this way, in a car accident, say, had not yet even begun to think of themselves as mortal. My death, on the other hand, while somewhat premature, I was 53 at the time of the verdict, could not be called sudden. Anyway, you couldn't call it that 2 weeks after the death sentence had sunk in, since I was informed quite explicitly that my final day on this earth would happen during the 2005 calendar year. Some people don't think about how to make the most of their last stage because, by the time their end has clearly come upon them, they are no longer in a position, mental or physical, to make of their final days what they might have. Relief of pain is their primary concern. Not me. I would not suffer like that. Starting weeks before the diagnosis, when atypical, if largely unnoticed, things began happening to me, I had no pain, not an ounce. Later I was told that the very end would be similarly free of pain. The shadows that had begun very slowly to darken my mind would lengthen, just as they do on the golf course in late afternoon, that magical time, my favorite time to be out there. The light would flatten. The whole, the object of my focus, would become gradually harder and harder to pick out. Eventually, it would be difficult even to name. Brightness would fade. I would lapse into a coma. Night would fall. I would die. Because of the factors surrounding my dying, my relative youth, my continued possession of mental facility, and otherwise good physical health, my freedom from daily pain and the proximity of loved ones, most of whom were themselves still in their prime, I took a different approach to my last 100 days, one that required that I keep my eyes as wide open as possible, even with blurry vision. Oh yes, there was one more factor, probably the primary one that influenced the way I approached my demise. My brain. The way I thought. First, as an accountant, then as an ambitious businessman, and finally as the CEO of a major American firm. My sensibilities about work and accomplishment, about consistency and continuity and commitment, were so ingrained in me from my professional life, and had served me so well in that life, that I couldn't imagine not applying them to my final task. Just as a successful executive is driven to be as strategic and prepared as possible to win at everything, so I was now driven to be as methodical as possible during my last 100 days. The skill set of a CEO, ability to see the big picture, to deal with a wide range of problems, to plan for contingencies, etc., aided me in preparing for my death. And, not to be overlooked, my final experience taught me some things that, had I known them earlier, would have made me a better CEO and person. In approaching my last project so systematically, I hope to make it a positive experience for those around me, as well as the best 3 months of my life. I was a lucky guy. Suppose I hadn't been given just 100 days. What might I have been doing? Thinking about my next business trip, probably to Asia. Planning how to attract new business while managing the accounts we already had. Formulating initiatives for 6 months down the road, a year, 5 years. My executive calendar was always plotted out 12 to 18 months hence. It came with the job. My position demanded that I think constantly about the future, how to build on the firm's success, how to ensure the continued quality of what we provided. Yes, technically I lived in the present, but my eyes were forever focused on a more elusive, seemingly more important spot in time. Before the diagnosis, my last thought every night before falling asleep usually concerned something that was to happen 1 month to 6 months later. After the diagnosis, my last thought before falling asleep was the next day.